journey through the stories that define the artists playing Bonnaroo. Who are they? What are they? What will you see? The what? Which bands? This year that matter.
Yay.
With Brad Steiner and Barry Corder.
Well, this is a familiar sight. Quarantined and everyone in a separate space. It's like we set a trend. It's like we did this and showed everybody how to do it.
We've been practicing for a long time.
Yeah, Barry Corder, Brad Steiner. This is the What Podcast, a podcast for Bonnaroovians by Bonnaroovians. There's little Taco. Look at that bright shining face.
Hey, hi,
buddy. Boy, that quarantine beard. It's like the opposite of Barry's hair. Yeah,
I started this last week.
yeah. This is
Nice.
This has been the longest week in the history of weeks. I can't really wrap my head around it. I was having a conversation with the wife, and I was like, man, you remember that time we moved to New Orleans and we had a crawfish bush? She goes, that was 5 days ago. It was 5 days ago. I cannot believe that in the week that we have had, it feels like it's been a month. This has been the longest week in my entire life.
Was it a week ago today you called me with the Coachella, or was that the week before? I really honestly
remember.
I don't either. I think it was last Sunday, right?
Oh my God. Was it really last Sunday? I have no idea. Did Coachella cancel this last Monday or last Monday? I honestly don't remember. That's the problem. I honestly cannot recall who, what, when, where, and why, and where we are in all of this.
Well, when you sit at home every day, they all run together. There's no sense of time.
Well, you had. I mean, when's the last time you looked at a calendar, Lord?
Well,
Taco?
I wish
You've been quarantined for 10 years.
I wish I could say it was, I was getting all kinds of housework done, but man, I've worked. We all have. Everyone at the paper's been crazy. And I'm sure you guys, Brad, you and I usually talk, once every day, and it's been a long time. It's been crazy.
Well, I haven't had any toilets that I need you to fix. It's been pretty
No emergencies.
drama-free here.
Well, there's no toilet paper, so you don't need toilets.
Good point.
Yeah.
Here's what I say. No matter how bad you want to, if you run out of toilet paper, don't use the cat. Whatever you do, don't use the cat. It's soft. Please don't.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the thing. So on Monday, at least for me, everything was normal. Everything was calm. And I've said this before. The thing about these New Orleans folk is that they treat most everything, especially something like this, like a hurricane. It will not bother them. They will not acknowledge it until it makes landfall. And until it makes landfall, there's a possibility that it'll miss. There's a possibility it'll take a right turn and miss entirely. Well, they were really late to the party to quarantine. We didn't quarantine the radio station that I work for until Wednesday, literally Wednesday. That's when everybody got out of the building. And by Thursday, it was, why are you still here? They were literally pushing people out of the building. So that was the week. And I had to be reminded of all that had happened yesterday through the week. Yesterday, I really can't put together how this has all sort of happened over the last 5 days.
That's a great point. I hadn't thought about that angle of it. New Orleans is probably as practiced at these types of things as anybody I can think of. Anybody that lives on the coast, as you said, is, they believe a hurricane when they see it or when it's right on top of them. Or they know what to pack in the car and get out of town, when to do it, and all of that. Us here in Chattanooga, we kind of laughed about it, I guess, last week. It must have been 2 weeks ago when you called me on that Sunday, because we did talk about this. Chattanooga has reacted, and Taco, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've shut down restaurants, bars. And yet I saw Girl Scouts out selling cookies yesterday at the hardware store. That just struck me. I just stared.
It's essential. These are essentials.
I just stared for a minute. I was like, am I really seeing this?
Thin Mints, man.
Well,
got to get the tag-alongs.
In a crunch, a tag-along could be used as toilet paper, sure.
And I guess part of the reason that I wanted to talk to you guys and everybody out there really is, as we mentioned before, just sort of get a sense of how everybody is dealing with this. I've had a different look at it because of working at a newspaper. So, I mean, we send everybody home, but the workload is quadrupled.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking for every angle and story, and it
you know,
changes so quickly.
I can tell you're busy because you have not cleaned up your basement.
This is clean. You should see it when it's not clean.
Oh, wow.
That's actually what
Jesus.
I'm working on. You can kind of see it's all my Bonnaroo stuff back there on the
Is it?
shelf.
Okay.
All
Yeah, you get a whole.
Yeah.
It looks like it's about to collapse. I'll be honest with you.
It very well could. It's
In a minute now.
a repurposed shelf.
Yeah, we said this in our COVID episode last week, and I can't believe we had an entire episode for COVID. But the response from the two cities is totally different. Now I think everybody's sort of on the same page. Everybody's sort of shut down everything. I dare say that you guys don't live in a city where you can get drive-through curbside service for crawfish. I literally drove up to a tent yesterday. They poured some crawfish in my car, and I drove away. It was pretty spectacular. Yeah.
Wow.
I
But
bet
you
that
can't
smelled
get
great.
beer.
Yeah,
You
it
can
did
get
feel great.
You can't get curbside beer.
Sure. As an aside, by the way, this week we've got the Bonnaroulette episode, part two of Bonnaroulette coming up here in a second. We spin the wheel. By the way, we spent a lot of money on this wheel. It was very, very expensive. We'll spin the wheel, and wherever it lands, that's the song that we're going to play from the Bonnaroo lineup. Now, as an aside, Lord Taco currently sitting on the very famous Camp Nut Butter couch.
This is the couch.
Yeah, there it is.
From camp, yeah.
Yeah, Camp Nut Butter couch, as set on by very famous celebrities like some guy, a random passerby, and the Repeats.
Repeat. Ken Weinstein sat on that couch.
Yeah, Ken Weinstein.
Yeah, we've had, we hope to have more. And as I think you pointed out, if you sat on that couch, you're probably safe from this virus.
Yeah. Well,
There's a lot of yeah. I've lost all the.
Taco's dirty little secret. He's not wearing pants while sitting on the couch right now, which is don't stand up. I swear to God, don't stand up.
All right.
Well, I'm not the first one.
I got a couple sitting on that couch again then.
So I got a couple of things. I don't know what kind of news you have, Barry, whatever you found out, but here's something. This may or may not mean anything to anybody, but I talked to a manager and a booking agent separately of two artists that are on the mid-bill, like somewhere middle of the card, right? And this was the exact quote that they gave me. I don't see how we make all of these artists work when they talk about the rescheduling, because everybody's rescheduling to basically the same months. And the way that these things are going to be moved and tracked and routed, they said there's going to be hard decisions. And, if you are a mid-carder and not a headliner, I'm assured that the headliners are all intact. But if you're a mid-carder and you've got, a tour that you can get far more money than a one-off festival appearance, do you choose Bonnaroo over a tour that can make you a lot more money when you go back on the road? Do you choose Bonnaroo over insert festival here when you're probably a little higher billed? I don't really know the answer to that, and I think that's what they're all going to grapple with in the next 2 months.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I had a bunch of answers for today. I felt like we should do this episode today to get something out there, and we had the Bonnaroulette. I don't have the answers because they don't have the answers yet. I've reached out to the folks at AC, the management, and should talk to them this week. But it's the same questions that you just brought up, Brad. I mean, everybody, the ones we know about have rescheduled to September or October. Bonnaroo is now 2 weeks after Moon River on the calendar.
Moon
River
1 week.
Is it 1 week? 24?
It's 1 week apart now.
Okay. Yeah, it'll start.
And did I not read it's also the same weekend as another festival? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
Lost Land, It's the EDM.
There was an EDM festival that same weekend.
I think it's Lost Land.
How much crossover? How much crossover is there? How many artists?
Quite a bit. There was a lot of chatter on Twitter when that announcement was made. A lot of people said, "I've already bought my tickets for this base event." So those decisions are going to have to be made. I was talking to a couple of
Barry just call that a base event?
That's what they called it. That's
Is that
what they called it. That's why I said, yeah.
Tell me that's not what they called it.
I had to think about it. That's what
Barry's
they
the
called it.
EDM guy. I trust him.
Yeah.
The
So
base event.
Base
not
event.
just what you just said, Brad. I mean, are you going to choose between the bigger or the smaller? But as we know, routing. I mean, what happens if these bands are on the other side of the country or the world, or they can do whatever their scheduled day. Say it's a Friday in Manchester, and then they're supposed to be in Seattle on Saturday, and then New York offers. I mean, there's going to be a lot of hard decisions that are going to have to be made.
You just made me think about something, and I wish that we would have asked Steve and Brian this when we had the lineup show. But and this is just me asking a general question, because normally when you book a show, if it's not routed perfectly for you, you pay for the travel. You pay for the artist travel. You pay for their entire
Right.
group to get to you and their gear and all that. I wonder if Bonnaroo pays for the travel for some of these artists.
Well,
if it's not routed, if they don't put Tame Impala, they built a tour that went through Bonnaroo, right? I wonder if Bonnaroo had to pay for that, for some of that travel. I dare say no, but if you do not have anything built around it, do they pay for it, or does the artist pay for it? I'll need to ask my guys this.
I don't know the exact specifics on that, but I do know from having done this job for a long, long time that routing is a huge factor in all of the booking. Price, routing. Can you because the managers obviously want to make it make sense. They want to work your event on whatever Friday, and then have something the next day and the next day and then before it, and they want to avoid long travel. They want to avoid
I'll go one step further. I say what I say about the mid card, but the bottom of the lineup, we know pretty clearly they don't get paid to be a Bonnaroo, and they have to pay their way to get there and to get their gear and their stagehands. You think that you're going to pay to go to Bonnaroo if you've got a paying gig somewhere else in the country?
That's what you've got to weigh. Is the exposure you were going to get worth the $200 in your pocket that are guaranteed, or 500 or 1,500 or 20, whatever the money is? Yeah, and everybody's going to be doing it.
And they need the money. I had a guy I talked to yesterday. He is part of a management group of a major artist who have been to Bonnaroo before and have headlined Bonnaroo. And I just threw it out there. It's like, hey, can we do an event with insert band here? And he said they will do anything right now for cash. So I mean, if little old me has got 10 grand to give insert band here that should be getting a lot more than 10 grand. If they're willing to do that for, me, man, they need anything they can get at this point.
Well, that's right. And everybody shut down. That's the other thing. You were talking about New Orleans and the hurricanes.
Well, there's one that hasn't. Hangout's still holding out.
Hangout is still out. But you think about it, you normally in crisis mode like this, it's a tornado or a hurricane that has hit part of the country. It's the entire country, number one. Number two, there's no money coming in. I mean, I equate it to like back when I had a lot of credit card debt. You were just fighting to make it through that month. You were never getting ahead. You know what I mean? So all these bands, crew, lighting, all these people that are not vendors, that are not working, are not working. And so everyone kind of hopes that we're going to get the all clear pretty soon, and then everybody's back the way it was. But if it goes on a long, long time, some of these guys may not make it. When we moved in here to the house in New Orleans, we had a crawfish boil in the backyard. Which was, organized by the neighbors. And one of the people that stopped by here in town, she has just started. She broke away on her own a couple of months ago and is now a manager for some artists that
planning on going on tour. She left her job. She did the whole thing. She started a little management group. It's hers. And guess who now has no source of income and work? I mean, do you know how many of those stories are there? I mean, there's probably most of these big bands are obviously managed by the same 3-4 companies. It's sort of like the meat industry. It's all, all of your meat comes from 3 companies. All of these bands are usually managed by the same 3 or 4 companies. It's everybody from the mid card down that's probably individually managed by Mom and them and Lord Taco. and all of a sudden they've got nothing. So I just cannot see half of this lineup sticking around come October and September when you have got possibly paying gigs that can recoup some of your losses.
We're basically going to have another lineup day, it sounds like.
I'd say absolutely. And
yeah,
part of what we have to decide is we want to keep doing these shows. I mean, and we want to reach out to artists, but do we reach out to artists and they're not even on the lineup? And I don't know. That's one of the things that I wanted to ask and will ask the folks at AC. When does it feel like that we can start talking about the changes? You know what I mean? They probably don't know. I don't see how they could.
You mean the changes in the festival or the changes in the lineup and what
everything?
It means?
The changes that will happen in September. Yeah. I mean, you'd like to think they're the 800-pound gorilla, right? I mean, you'd like to think they would like to think they can, have the big pull. But as you said, Brad, I mean, if it's cash versus, that exposure, if the timing is wrong, Moon River, we would think, is unaffected. Our Riverbend Festival is.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, look at a lineup from a festival or insert thing here that might be the same weekend as Moon River. Do you have any of these boutique festivals?
But let me just to add. Sorry to interrupt, but to point out for people who don't know, Moon River is a city is here in Chattanooga. It's the same people. It's AC Entertainment that books it. So those guys are going to do Moon River one week and then Bonnaroo the next. What I was going to say is right. Riverbend postponed without a new date. There may be a lot of reasons for that, but there's only a certain number of weekends, right? I mean, you would think September, October are the windows of opportunity. That's 8 weekends.
Taco, right? Did Coachella announce their date? What was their new date?
Their new date was October, I think.
Okay.
I want to say it was mid-October.
So look at that, Coachella after Bonnaroo. That's a new one. That's a new wrinkle.
And it's almost like there's a race to go claim your date, before someone else does.
Well, yeah, that's essentially why probably Bonnaroo had to pull the trigger. And come June, we're probably okay. But how many more dates you're gonna fill up? We're gonna do this in Christmas. You're gonna spend you're gonna do this on Christmas Eve.
And I think you pointed out last week, Brad, right, is if the difference between postponing and canceling is refunds. If they cancel, right, they have to refund. If they postpone, then they don't have to. That's the other question about Bonnaroo. I'm pretty sure I saw where they are going to refund. I know Big Ears is, which again is an AC thing. So
you do know that for sure? So you're telling me that for sure that you can get a refund from your Bonnaroo ticket.
Not for sure. That's one of the questions. Big Ears, you can, because that was in Ashley's note.
Well, they also canceled it, by the way. It's the difference between canceling and postponing.
Yeah. But that's the question people have. And again, for those people that already had bought their tickets to the base event, which one do you choose? You're going to get a refund from one or the other.
Yeah, I don't know, Base Daddy. I don't know, but you are Base. Look, if the reality just hit me for a second. I don't know why I didn't think about this, but you've got a Bonnaroo lineup where half of the mid-card and half of the undercard could be completely wiped out. What in the world does this festival look like if you lose 25% of your daytime schedule grid? What does that look like? I'd still think that the actual volume of human beings is still going to be pretty high. I don't know many people who are going to invest this kind of money and then not go. That still seems really strange to me, but maybe I'll be wrong. I just cannot wrap my head around the idea that there is a very good possibility that 25% of your daily schedule grid is completely gone.
I've been trying to wrap my head around it being in September just for me. Does that, I mean, you and I, we all like to go up on Wednesday for that media day and then stay till Monday, which seems to work in the middle of the summer. Does it work, in September when school starts? I don't know that it impacts me tremendously. It's still, a work week, but think about all those other people. I don't know. Is June different than September for how many percent of those 80,000 people? It's a lot of college kids.
It's a lot of college kids. They're still in school.
They just started.
Yeah.
and they will have just gone through, the weirdest semester of their lives that we're doing right now. So there's just a lot of questions.
I have no earthly idea. I really don't know.
And I just thought of this. A lot of people are being laid off to survive this. How are you going to be able to go to your boss now and say, I need a week in September? I need to get that vacation.
But here's
when the businesses have struggled to stay open, it's just a lot to figure out.
And what a kick in the ass when you have such a great lineup like Bonnaroo does, and then you get, I don't know, and the wife said this because she owns a business, you don't really write pandemic into the business plan. That's not really part of, when you lay out your whole strategy, pandemic probably didn't show up on it. Hurricane, maybe. Pandemic.
Just to give an example, one of the stories that I've been following and will continue to follow is with the restaurants. And most of them that I interviewed have laid off at least half of their staff, some 100% of their staff. And in some, I was told by one of the managers here, is they're actually doing the employee a favor, especially a wait staff person, by laying them off, because then they can go get unemployment, versus there's no way they would have been able to pay them, a fair equal amount of what they might make in tips. Some wait people can make $100 a night, they can have a great night. Well, a business is not going to pay you that. They're going to pay you an hourly rate. So it's just really, really complicated. And we're only really 3 days in, it seemed to really start on Wednesday.
It feels that way, but we all saw this coming. Well, some of us, except for the very top of our government, saw this coming 6 weeks ago. The warning signs were there. We all started seeing them, but like we said in the last episode, it really did feel like when Coachella decided to pull the plug and South by Southwest pulled the plug. That's when everything started to feel like, oh shit.
Yeah, that was changing.
That Coachella was the first domino that really, really triggered it for me, and then or South by, excuse me, and then Coachella, and then after that, and then here it was the restaurants.
How much longer can Hangout hold out for? You've got every expert in the country basically saying this is the peak is going to hit, in April and May. And we're not going to be, these are experts though. I mean, it ain't going to end, next week. If this last week has felt like a month, what does it feel like all the way till May? And how does Hangout keep holding out through, every day feeling like a month before they say, we can't do it. Now I understand the guy that gets to make the call, he's got more money than God. He's got a sold out festival. He's got a city that's willing to put up with him for his, for whatever he wants. And, he's got everybody already, locked in. He can wait until the last second, I guess.
It's a great question. I wonder what the thinking is.
But then again, so did Bonnaroo. Bonnaroo could have waited all the way up until June 1st, but they needed a date. They wanted to fight the date thing. So, I will say though, in Hangout's defense, I guess they do have in their mind have an entire summer of dates that they can play with. They're not like all the other festivals. They're built to be hot.
Yeah.
Bonnaroo doesn't want to reschedule to August. God almighty. Do you understand how hot it would be in Tennessee in August? So yeah, I mean, the reason why all these New Orleans festivals, they can't, or they postpone until the fall because Louisiana in August, you're not going outside.
I think you pointed out, though, Taco, to some of our Patreon listeners that it's still pretty hot in September here, isn't it?
Yeah, Tennessee in September is still basically summer. I mean, it's
I know, but Moon
it's still
River,
gonna be pretty hot.
Moon River felt pretty good though. Moon River felt just fine.
I got a sunburn at Moon River last year.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
the plague.
The first world problems.
Well, I mean,
I got a sunburn at Moon River
in September.
Yeah, in September.
But to Hangout's defense, they probably do have an entire summer open that nobody else is going to compete with them because it is a beach festival. They can basically reschedule to whenever they want to in July and August.
You know, the other factor, though, is the public opinion. There was not so much now, but middle of the week, there was some discussion about from business owners here about staying open to keep their employees working and to hopefully make some money. And the peer pressure was...
Yeah, it's damn near inhumane to stay open at this point if you have a business that is collections of people. It's really irresponsible, incredibly irresponsible.
That was the point about the Girl Scout cookies to me. You really? Are you that desperate to sell some tag-alongs that you're going to send your 8 and 9-year-old out there to mingle with every stranger that pulls up? It's just a lot of things going on. I think next week, one of the things I wanted to mention.
I want to stop you for a second because that is the Girl Scout business model, is to stand there and mingle with strangers.
I know.
So, they are 9 and 10 years old mingling with strangers who come along. That is what they do. That is sort of what the whole plan is. So nothing really has changed.
A pandemic changed, but minor details.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention, both to give Russ a plug, but also because I know a lot of bands are doing it, these live streaming. We had Strung Like a Horse did it here last night, and Russ was involved. Taco was involved in that.
Who's Russ?
Sorry, he's Russ to me. Yeah. Lord Taco.
Honestly,
it took me a lot more of those.
It took me a year to find out Russ's actual name, and even to this point, my nephew still walks up to him and says, "Hi, Lord Taco."
Well, that's how he is known.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to see a lot more of those live streaming. It's maybe a little too early to see how it did financially, unless you know, Taco. But
I have no idea. Hopefully, it did well. I think they had around 350 people streaming at any one time.
Good.
Yeah.
But they did it as a way to make money for them.
I get it.
And the money beyond that is going to an emergency fund here that our Arts Build, a nonprofit, has created for other musicians who can apply for a grant if they've had shows canceled. But it's $500 an artist. That's $500 they maybe didn't have, but that doesn't go a very, very long way.
I get it, but here's just me. I don't really get into watching live streams. I don't really like it. In fact, I watch, even when Coachella does their live stream, I watch it. I mean, it's nice to have it on the background, but as a music fan, it doesn't really do anything for me. I want to, I don't mind the idea of dropping people, money. And I understand that's a really good idea to sort of keep your funds going a little bit. But as a music fan, I've never really gotten into even watching live performances on YouTube. You know what I mean?
Well, it's no replacement for actually being there. That's for sure.
Yeah. It feels so cold.
That's the thing. You've got people who are going to, theoretically shut in their house now. So there's that. And I have to admit, I have watched some of the old Bonnaroo ones just to see if I can see myself in the, taking pictures.
Oh, God.
Come on. Who hasn't done that?
Me.
Find yourself in the crowd.
I've never done that.
Now you will, now that I've given you the idea.
It is remarkable. Like through this, the vanity project that is Barry Corder sometimes is very strange. And you call me the vain one.
It was just more novel than anything to watch. I actually went to watch, like, I think it was Janelle Monáe. I actually did watch some of that one because it was such a fun show, and then of course it was like, hey, I wonder if I'm in there.
I guess for me it's so when it all changed for me is going to the Grammys, and I was at the Grammys, and some shows that are, or some performances that are in the room, they sound really great, but on TV it never worked. I would come back home and I'd watch the performances on YouTube or the recording that I'd make, and it just didn't work. And then some things that completely were garbage in the room sounded great on TV. So it's hard for me to wrap my head around the idea of, is this sounding good, or is it mixed well through a board? I don't know if I would have the same feeling of it if I was standing in a crowd.
That's a extremely legitimate concern, and I can speak to that having done some of this. There's a huge difference. If it's just somebody with an iPhone, I'm not going to watch it. What you guys did last night, Taco, they brought in a crew from the local community college and some professional sound guys. They had an empty room. It sounded and looked terrific.
It was really a show like they would do in front of a live audience.
2 hours.
No audience.
It was 2 hours?
Full set. It was 2 hours, yeah.
Full set. So that, that's a level of commitment. Can you continue to do that? I mean, or they only had 8 people in there, but
I would tell you what I'd watch. I had this conversation with Moon Taxi about a year ago, and I asked him, can you go through how you wrote Too High and rebuild the whole process for me? Man, I wish that someone would live stream like a recording session. Like put a camera in there and let me just watch. I mean, turn it into the Truman Show at this point, and let me watch you record a song that may or may not be any good, but it sure would be a lot of fun to watch the whole process.
I was there at that Moon Taxi thing. It was terrific. I think we'll probably see more people being creative. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the videos of people doing their DJ sets, like on the stove, and that one's pretty funny.
Yeah, Luke Daddy's been doing one on a regular basis.
Pretty funny. Well, these are mimicking.
Okay.
The whole, he turned the gas, and it was pretty funny. And another girl did one on a ironing board with the iron. Just people having fun because they're shut in. So, how much of that are you gonna do? Yeah, Loop Daddy, I've seen that one.
This is his element. He's been doing this for a long time. Live streams and stuff from his house.
So.
Yeah. I don't know what that does. Like, I know Miley Cyrus, she put out a video, and she was walking through her closet. I mean, there's some things that I just can't do. There's nothing about any of this that sounds interesting to me. In fact, it's sort of like, to me, when you invite me to a wedding. I'll get the invite in the mail, but I'd rather just send you cash so I don't have to go. Can I just send you some money and make this easier on all of us?
Depends on the, open bar or mixed nuts and finger mints. That's a big decision maker for me right there.
Barry makes his decisions on mixed nuts. That's what I hear.
Mixed nuts and finger mints, I'm not going. It's a southern thing.
Let me ask you this. So Barry, this is a personal question. You're locked in. You're bunkered in. You're quarantined. What's the wife making for food? She's been making some of the pimento cheese. What is she making?
She made that last week. We're having banh mi's tonight. Yesterday was pasta, and then I think you saw 2 nights ago we did Spam and greens, and it was delish.
No, it wasn't. What are you talking about? Spam and mixed greens?
Yeah, fried Spam. She was trying to figure out what to make, and so she was. You
understand this is a pandemic, not an apocalypse.
It seemed very appropriate to eat like the stuff that will outlive the pandemic. So it was kind of ironic, or with a tongue in cheek, that we did Spam.
You also tagged this as requested.
I requested it. Yeah, heck yeah, it was delish. That's the
Very.
thing. Your reason you're asking, people don't know my wife is a very, very good cook.
Oh, she makes this pimento cheese that you
Yeah.
know I crave most days.
Yeah, we could make a living selling that stuff. But she has her weaknesses that she grew up on too. You know, saltines and Vienna sausages, believe it or not, or
Like fried spam.
like fried spam. Every now and then, you just have to.
So before we get into, I know we've gone way long, and we're going to get into Bonnaroulette here in a second, but I want to, I'm going to come back to this, so don't think that I'm going to forget. But being in New Orleans for now 3 weeks, I have some news to share with you guys and with the entire What Podcast Bonnaroo community. And I don't care who says it. I don't care who argues with me. I don't care if they're Ashley Caps. You know, if you want to fight with me on the moving the hill, so be it. But you are not going to fight me. The word is calliope.
Nope.
No.
It is not calliope. I would like for you guys to understand that there is a street in New Orleans, and its name is Calliope. This is like people. Yes, it is.
I don't care.
The name of the road is Calliope, and it's going to live in lore at this point because it's not coming back. But it is not pronounced Calliope. It is not pronounced Calliope. Ask anybody in this city. It's Calliope. Watch Treme if you don't believe me. Watch the show Treme. They all talk about driving up and down Calliope.
Taco, do you care how they pronounce a street in New Orleans?
Nope.
That's where it came from.
Yeah.
No, it's
That's
not.
where the word came from.
No, it's
Yes,
a
it
Greek
is.
word.
It's a Greek word. It goes way before New Orleans.
The roots of this festival are in New Orleans. It came from Superfly, and it ran its course all the way up to 2019. The word is pronounced Calliope.
Well, that's the only strong argument you've made so far. It did come from Superfly, but you're still wrong.
But
Not wrong about
Calliope
this.
is not Bonnaroo.
You
Calliope
can-
is Walter Productions. That's a separate company.
You can stand on that moving hill and scream it
Yeah.
all you want, Brad, but it's Calliope.
You guys also have a town outside of Tennessee in Chattanooga called Lafayette that no one else in the world pronounces as Lafayette. It's Lafayette, but yet everybody wants to argue that it's Lafayette. It's not.
Do
It's Calliope.
you know where I was born? Lafayette, Indiana.
Okay,
So-
good.
Yeah, it's not Lafayette.
What's 15 minutes south of you?
Lafayette.
Okay.
That's what they call it. I just avoid talking about it.
Calliope. Thank you. R.I.P. Calliope. All right. You want to get into Bonnaroulette and spin this wheel and listen to some new stuff?
Absolutely. And we had to decide what we're going to do about these ticket giveaways.
Yeah, we got tickets, but
Let's put it on hold. Hate to give it to somebody that can't go because it's been moved. So,
Yeah.
but we do have them.
Yeah, we've got a lot of time to kill between now and September. So let's just
We
put
got
that
3
on
more
pause.
months. Yeah.
God
I think what we need to do is, like everybody, figure out what's going on and
look,
figure
I have
that out and talk to everybody and get back and let people know.
man, October and September is going to be absolutely slammed. You might as well just take life off. Just take off everything, and you've got a lot to do in September and October.
Yeah. A lot of people that's trying to jam everything in that they can. So
All right, let's start Bonnaroulette Part 2 on the What Podcast. See you guys soon. Bye, guys.
Journey through the stories that define the artists playing Bonnaroo. Who are they? What are they? What will you see? The what? Which bands? This year, that matter. With Brad Steiner and Barry Corder.